would you mind keeping an eye out in case anyone does want to come through this door? Yeah. We were doing a test recording of this last week, and I mean, this rig isn't exactly subtle. And the postman comes in, walks through the door, and mid-chat, and just puts post on the table like this. I'm completely oblivious to it. I was like, Patrick, when we do this for real, we're gonna have to have like, so we put stickers up all over the doors now.
We have it on set, man. You wouldn't believe, like, Joe, there's cameras and there's entourage and everything, your people set, and then someone just comes walking on set and they start talking to you. They're like,
it's
unreal, isn't it? What are you shooting? You're like, what? Actually, we're filming. If you look behind you, you're basically on camera.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Unreal.
But don't leave.
Yeah, no.
They just continue. They're like,
hang around a bit.
Great, so
no, we're
actually
actually live. Yeah. This postman was exactly the same. Like, he wasn't like, oh, sorry. He was like, cool. Here's your post. Like, on that table, right there. It was great. David Gandy.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming down, man.
Tgoing for having me.
I know we stay in touch, but it feels like it's been a while.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking cars.
Good.
Predominantly, but for
glad we're
any
not talking fashion. We're talking
we're going to be talking cars.
Something I actually know about.
Yeah, man. But we're going to have to touch on fashion. We're going to have to touch on some background, just for those of you guys who have been living in Antarctica for the last 10 years and aren't familiar with David Gandy. Would I be wrong or right in assuming that you were or still are, like, for me, I associate you with the first male supermodel. Is that a thing? Would that be right? Don't be modest, dude.
I think we call anything we try and put people on some sort of, when they're at the top of their game, and in the fashion game we call them supermodels or.
Okay. Yeah.
So yes, I suppose I've being on the top of the game in the male modelling industry, very fortunate to be. But there's a few people, it's just I've probably branded and people will know my name outside the industry more than the other guys. There are a lot of other guys who are far better looking, far better models than me. I just make sure they're not in the same shot as me because they are so much better looking.
So much better looking.
And it just doesn't do my self-esteem any good to be hanging around with those guys whatsoever. But no, it was basically like, I came into the industry, I observed for many, many years, and then I wondered why there were all these female supermodels and why they're so much acclaimed. They got paid so much more money and how they could brand and everything. And I was lucky to work with a few of them. And I worked through. I thought there is something here. What if we, why isn't there? We're in the same campaigns. Why are their names so much bigger? Why does everyone know them outside of the industry, not just here?
So why was that? Like, what was the reason?
Good question, sir. Because I kind of just went, why don't we try and do that as well? Why don't we brand? And you need a platform, and that's the thing. And we built on what the female supermodels did, the male models didn't, was they ran it as a business.
All right.
So they had teams and PRs and PAs and management, and where I think the male model side, they would see it as a stepping stone to something else.
Sure.
So they'd go like, we're modelling at the moment, but I want to be an actor, I want to be a musician, I want to be this. And I thought, actually, there was something here to build.
So it was as much the people behind the scenes as it was you looking good.
Once I had brought in, I still have the same agency as I did when I started.
Cool. Okay.
Many, many years ago. I won't say how many years ago, it makes me old. But brought people in to then, but when you're talking to people, they thought I was mad behind what I was talking about. So really? And so you needed people to see that vision and that innovation to go, we see this is great. And then, of course, light blue, that took me from absolutely no one knowing me to.
So light blue was the Dolce & Gabbana campaign.
Yeah, me in the white pants, white swimming shirt, and it was a time when, which I think we're going to see again, when not many brands were doing particularly very creative advertising or anything. It was all about the androgynous guy, which we've kind of gone back to a little bit.
Right.
So it's now time for a brand to step up again, and light blue was this phenomenal success because it was actually this huge creative thing that was completely different to everything else. Yeah. And it was the brilliance of Mario Testino and Dolce & Gabbana. When you put those two together, it's just insane. And that took me from virtually no one knowing me to paparazzi next door. Everyone wants to know me. Just.
So how was that? What's it like going from like zero to hero in such a small amount of time?
it's when you want to. I always say I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to be the most successful in my industry. Along with that comes some recognition.
Well, I would guess a byproduct of that
fame.
is your face is everywhere.
Of course. Well, it wasn't just my face as well.
Well, your everything
there was
is
a lot
everywhere.
of me in that campaign. And of course, then what I didn't want to be was, oh, you're that guy in that ad, or you're the guy in the white swimming trunks, or you're that. So that's when we started putting a name to it, and then we to the point now of having my own brands and loungewear and collaborations and luggage and everything else.
Cool,
and then in between all that, I get to go and play with some cars.
Fantastic.
Which is the thing I really, really love.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. I mean, as an interesting insight, and it's something I've never actually shared with my audience. For 12 years before I got into YouTube or cars or anything, I designed men's underwear.
Did you?
I did, yeah. And we manufactured it in England. And the factory still exists, and I'm still a shareholder. I know, man, I had to tell you. And I remember being involved in that world. So I was probably 3 or 4 years in that world when that campaign came out. Yeah. And I was like, guys, check this out. This is cool. And for me, my whole world, was.
And it's something.
Textiles.
You might back me up in this.
Yep.
Something that is not as easy as everyone thinks. So when I've gone from that modeling to then designing creative design range,
absolutely.
to a much sort of mass market.
Yeah.
When you're talking with M&S, you've got to design you're matching underwear from a 25-year-old to a 75-year-old, and you've got
all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And
it's man, you know how hard that is. So
absolutely.
But the loungewear and underwear we have designed is a phenomenal success, and we're coming up to the 5-year anniversary this year. But
has it been 5 years now?
It's been 5 years building that business, and that's it's kind of 15 to 20 million pound turnover year on just that little business within M&S.
Just that run.
So it's been very, very successful.
What's it like working with a powerhouse like M&S? So for any of you guys watching or listening who aren't based in England, M&S is short for Marks and Spencers, or we abbreviate it sometimes to Marks and Sparks, and then we abbreviate it again to M&S. Are they the largest, or certainly one of the largest
UK retailer?
Yeah. UK retailer. So to be able to first of all design your own range and then plug into the UK's largest retailer.
But plug into internationally as well. We've done very well in Asia and
amazing
other countries.
Yeah.
So
fantastic, mate. That's super cool.
The t-shirts that we do, or the vests that we do, the super soft.
Yeah.
So my idea of it was, what we do is we take on the big boys. We take on the Ralph Lauren's. We take on the Sunspell. Instead of we do like full cashmere lounge suits and stuff like that. Something that should be £400 is £1,000 elsewhere. Wow. We're doing it whole set for £150. Incredible. And it's better quality. It's better, and see if we could do it. And
you did.
And we did. And it's been successful, and we have fans everywhere. And that was it. I always wanted to do about customers as well. That once you've got them, you keep them, and your loyalty is to them.
So you don't get any more phone calls from Calvin Klein anymore.
No.
Funnily enough.
It is amazing. It is amazing, actually. You can have like an underwear line yourself, and then Hugo Boss call up and go, "Could you be the face of our underwear?"
You just make our pants.
I've kind of got my own one now. I'm so sorry, but
sorry, I've got something else.
Happening. It's been an amazing experience. With M&S, it's a huge company, a massive company.
Massive.
Of course, within the retail game at the moment, things are changing with how you are selling. How retail is being sold, how people are shopping.
For sure.
It's a minefield. M&S have actually done very well, considering a lot compared to other high street brands.
Yeah.
And we're slowly innovating and changing that for that, how people are shopping.
Have you guys had to find that you've had to adapt a lot in terms of the way people are now shopping online?
We've adapted in the fact of how people are marketed to, more than actually probably shopping habits.
Right.
So there's a lot of people still shopping M&S stores.
Sure.
They still want to, they still want to feel that quality. Yeah. And sometimes we've even done where we've put, our new super soft t-shirt in, which looks great. Online,
you got to feel it,
looks great.
Yeah.
Didn't sell. On store, sold out. Because people actually went, oh my God, I have to have that, and I have to have that goes with it.
I mean, it doesn't matter how much of a good copywriter you are, writing a product description, there's only so much you can say about how good this feels, right?
And you can do whatever you want. You can put it in 3D, you can put your virtual headset on, you can walk around the store.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to feel. I mean, we, going back to cars. So with Jaguar, I worked with for many years.
Yeah.
Launched the I-PACE, through
Yeah.
virtual reality. So we had everyone from London, New York, LA. I think it was all those, and we were in LA with all our headsets on. There was everyone from London, everyone from New York, and we're all there in this virtual world,
rolling around on the
floating
floor.
above the earth. And then suddenly we're in the car, and they launch up, which was a phenomenal, it's a phenomenal car and a phenomenal way to get everyone together in that way.
Yeah.
Such a big launch. However, cars are cars.
Cars
It
are,
doesn't.
man.
You want to
gotta drive it,
experience.
right?
You can't experience that noise, that ambience. There is no noise in
Or
electric cars.
lack
but
of
there is-
noise,
Or
as well,
lack of noise.
Yeah.
Which I quite like about the I-PACE. There is actually some noise to it. They've
is.
actually engineered some of which compared to other electric stuff.
I went out to the Zurich E-Prix, which was interesting in itself because it was the first race in Switzerland for something like 60 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Switzerland doesn't allow motor
Sure, of course. Yeah.
racing. I think there was a bad accident sometime and they were just like, you know what? Let's just not do this anymore at all. So racing in Switzerland, despite the fact that their car culture is fantastic, I mean, the car collections in Switzerland are next level, but it seems to be very sort of underground, right? People don't like to show it, and racing's banned and whatnot. So being at this E-Prix in itself was a landmark moment. But I was given an I-PACE to drive about in, Fascinating experience, fascinating. Mostly because you don't have to use the brake, because the sort of engine braking, as it were, is so heavy in terms of the energy regen from the brakes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I probably only braked twice, and that was on one of those when I was stopping the car.
Very easy to get used to as well.
Super easy.
Sometimes it's slightly strange. I like that mechanical when you get a bit of a sort of noise from it and braking from it. No, I mean, what can you say? I think it was won 30 awards now. The I-PACE just won World Car of the Year.
Yeah.
It deserves it.
It does.
That design of the car. We were in my country house the other day, and I took my mum and dad, and she went, "That's new I-PACE, isn't it?" Which I was astounded that my mum knew that was new I-PACE. I was very proud.
That's cool, interesting.
And I said to her, just come and have a look at it. I'll take you around it for a second.
Yeah.
I said, so look at it. It's an SUV. It doesn't look like an SUV, does it? She went, no. Which I don't really know what it looks like. And I said, well, and there was an X5 next to it. Same width, same height. And I said, look at that design now. Look at how brilliant the I-PACE design is. Yeah. Because it's, you're looking, which looks like a sports car. It's a proper crossover sports car. Sort of
aesthetically, it's a stunning thing, isn't it?
It takes. I still stare at them when I'm passing.
It's odd to see something that obviously resembles an SUV, but the overhangs, front and rear, particularly the nose, is quite short. You
don't have an engine.
No engine,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so inside it's got so much space. It's crazy. Like I got in this thing and no transmission tunnel.
No.
So in the back they got all this leg room and it is cool, right?
Yeah. And talking to Ian Callum, who obviously designed it with his team there, is you can't do it with any other car. It's like a designer's dream, as we all know, is to have the wheels at each corner.
Absolutely.
And design it from there. And so the proportions of everything is not how we've looked at cars for so many years now. It's all very different. So stunning piece of car. I do enjoy. I mean, the car is done. I think all the electric cars I'm reading about at the moment, all good. It's the infrastructure. That is what. That is. We did it in typical. Like you do, come up with these stupid idea of challenges and think, whose idea was this? And it was actually mine. At 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's the best time, man. That's the most creative ideas. Yeah.
With a couple of gin and tonics in me. And I said, you know what? I said, Jack, can we have this? And I said, but I'm going to test it properly. Yeah. So I've got to go to a wedding. It's 250 miles. It's in Cornwall. We've got to be there for the rehearsal dinner. I have all the groomsmen's suits in the back. Yeah. I have 3 other groomsmen with me. And we need to be, we're using it properly. So drop it off. I want to see how it is to charge in London. I want to see how many miles it gets and everything else. It was hilarious. Okay. It was a fun trip. We ended up just having meatballs in IKEA because the IKEA charging infrastructure is amazing. They have 10.
Do they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, 50-watt chargers.
Interesting.
That gave us 80% of charging in about 45 minutes while we went upstairs and
had the cheapest meatballs in the land.
The best, cheapest meatballs.
Yeah, the best, cheapest
which
meatballs.
I never even knew was a thing.
Really? Oh no, that's a thing, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes, they send you around this maze, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, if not sure if any of you guys have shopped at IKEA, but they literally send you through this maze of retail, trying to get you to buy
And
something.
don't try and take shortcuts.
No, there are not.
Absolutely not.
Because you'll end up in some bedroom or something, right? There are no shortcuts.
No.
One feature that always sticks in my mind of IKEA is that robot that demonstrates how many times that chair they made it flexes.
Right. Yeah,
Do you remember that? They got this weird little robot and it just keeps squashing this flexible part of a chair.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we flexed this chair like 150 million times and it's still cool, so buy it. But if you make your way through the retail maze and at the end, as a reward for buying some furniture, you get like super discounted meatballs. Yeah. It's like 50p or something, and they are solid, man.
And on the way back, again, so the thing with electric cars is you have to plan before you know, even to the point where I knew, right, we've got, so say it says it does 235 miles, I think, the I-PACE. We had to do 250 miles. We could probably just about get there, but of course, we're in the midst of Cornwall where there are no charging points. So I'm thinking, right, we have to stop here to recharge, to get there, to be able to then get back. And that's the way you have to kind of determine it. And so on the way there, on the way back, it was a Sunday morning, we drove back. The queue for the meatballs was then, I mean, this is a thing that like, it was like an airport security thing. I was like, this is madness. People are coming to IKEA just for their...
Oh, particularly if it's a weekend, because it's like hangover cure, right? So everyone's like, particularly broke students, they're like, oh man, like...
But wasn't it typical of, it's something we won't debate, but you know, it's the infrastructure to be able to charge these cars, and it's IKEA, Swedish company, international company that have the best chargers that already force into people having electric cars, where you go to the service stations and there's 2 chargers.
And they're normally owned by Tesla.
And by Tesla or Nissan.
Yes,
and there's Nissans on, and there's like 4 cars, and you're going, how much you got? Like 20 minutes. How long you got? 20 minutes.
Okay, I'll just nip in and have another coffee.
Absolutely. You know, there's only so much you can do. I mean, the thing is, I was explaining to someone the other day that the way we are looking at this as service stations and petrol stations, we don't need those anymore. No. The whole point is we don't all need to be where the petrol is stored.
It could be anywhere else.
It could be anywhere. So the way you've got to look at it with electric cars is that you go to the supermarket, and of course you plug your car in. Or any car parks. If I was a supermarket, if I was M&S, as I was saying to her, I would be chucking so much money just having car parks full of, and then people go, oh, actually I can't charge it. Tesco or somewhere else. I'm going to Sainsbury's or I'm going to M&S, so I can go and plug it in for a...
and you'll probably buy something at the time, even if it's a sandwich.
You're going to be shopping as well for 20 minutes, half an hour.
Absolutely.
It's perfect for it. So petrol stations probably in the end will be obsolete. Yeah. You won't need it because you'll be at home or somewhere else. Big
solar-powered fields that will just swing into,
or just the roads charger. But we're a while away. But I'd say that I'm still got my big V8 500 brake horsepower.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about these things, man. So you've just, what do you drive? What do you daily drive right now?
Daily drive F-Type R or F-Type SVR.
Cool.
So I had a relationship with Jaguar for quite a few years. We're always a Jaguar family. Used to be chucked in the back of a 1988 Sovereign. So
is this where your love for Jag started?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much love you can have for a 1988 Sovereign, being chucked, going through, European countries with the sister and the dog and the grandparents and everything else in the car.
Yeah.
But I suppose it was.
Yeah.
The Britishness of Jaguar, and they weren't always an easy company to love. And then and then Tata bought them, and Ian Callum was there, and you could see where this company was going, and that's when we started talking and working together. That was like in 2009, 2010.
Was it right?
We were working with them for quite a few years, so you've seen that.
Very cool.
Seen the company as it is now.
You were there when they launched. Which was the SUV? Was it the E-PACE where they did the James Bond style barrel roll?
The F-PACE did the loop. Is it the loop?
Yeah.
Almost like the Scale Electric.
The loop, and the E-PACE did the barrel roll.
And the E-PACE did the barrel roll. Same guy driving.
The guy's got balls, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It also looks like he's had, I like the guy, but it looks like he's had one too many bangs in the head.
Too many crashes.
Yeah. So, phenomenal kind of launches. So, of course,
if any of you guys haven't seen this, just YouTube E-PACE launch. And they do this proper, I call it a James Bond style barrel roll because it was I'm not sure which.
It was taken from it,
Was it? It was taken from there?
From James Bond.
This car hits this like dirt ramp.
Yeah.
And instead of doing a more conventional jump, this dirt ramp was like sculpted so that the car would twist and barrel roll through the air and then land again and just casually drive up.
And it's the guy doing it was telling me, and obviously they have to test it because it can't go wrong on the night.
No.
And one time they were testing it because I can't remember, he said it has to be a certain mile per hour.
Oh God.
So He's looking on his actual kind of thing. It has to be, say, 62.
Right.
So he puts it on and puts the cruise control on 62. It does not move.
Right.
But I think he was saying, I think it was the story that as he was going up to the ramp, then the car sort of just went up a gear.
Oh God! What? And slowed it down a little.
And slowed it down slightly. So when they were testing it, barrel rolled and didn't quite make it.
Landed on the roof.
Yeah. So then they were like, right, I'm going to have to manually do it myself.
Manually do this.
And go through barrel roll and do it. But it's impressive that
It's incredible.
Jaguar to
yeah, and this happened live. This wasn't like an advert. This was to an audience.
No, this is absolutely in front of yeah. Well, the loop the scale electric loop the loop and down again in the F-PACE. I remember it was streaming wet, and it was the driver just went, yes, just go anyway.
Just hit it.
That's fine because they were willing to. So I'm really sorry, we're not going to do this. And he was like, no, let's. I think it'll be fun. Which, as you say, the guy's got balls to do it.
Yeah, fantastic.
But I love Jaguar. They're the things I love about Jaguar. How do we launch a car? Loop the loop. Let's do this. I kind of love the element of it.
Yeah.
You never get the Germans doing it. You'd never get Audi or Merc or something else. There's a bit of tongue in cheek about.
That's the cool thing about British car brands. They are fun, loving. Don't take themselves too seriously.
No. I think there is something to that, which is kind of we kind of feel has always kind of been the way with sort of the British kind of like racing.
Yeah.
Going back to like the Jaguar heritage or Lotus. It was just almost like this bunch of guys turning up, having 2 or 3 engineers and having a great time,
gung-ho,
but smashing the Germans to bits. And they're like,
and there was this inherent like eccentricity about it as well.
Yeah.
It was very sort of.
There was kind of like sort of cigarette hanging out,
cigarette hanging
having a good time.
Yeah, scarf around the neck. Off we go. Let's just wing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually, kind of like for many years, won.
Very good.
Yeah.
So dailying F-Type.
So we've got
SVR.
Yeah, and then we've got an E-PACE as well. So we've had a little girl on a little baby now, so we need a little bit more extra space.
How old is she now?
She's 5 months old.
Oh, so I'm 3 months in.
Are you?
Yeah. So congratulations. I know what you're going through, dude. I'm surprised you look so good, to be honest with you.
Well, I think we both look all right.
I'm dying inside. So the sleep
dying and crying.
The sleep deprivation's real, right? That's a real thing. Like,
my one, she's great during the night.
Okay.
But during the day, just no napping, no time, just wants to be part of everything, which my girlfriend says is me. Like she says is absolutely
Same thing.
You can't not be part of something.
Yeah.
You can't just you have to be. And I'm like, I suppose it is a bit me really. But I don't really sleep at night.
Well, that's interesting because my son's exactly the same. Thankfully, he sleeps fairly well.
Yeah.
And I can't complain, man, because I travel so much. As a result, hotel rooms are my best friend right now. Man, I make up car launches. I gotta go, baby. Something's happening. In South Africa, I'm away for 4 days just because I'm dying.
Never
inside.
has a long flight seemed so like now. Like before they would go 6 hours. Oh, another 6 hours. Now
flight,
I'm like, oh no. Could you go round a few times? I'm literally just finishing.
Just headwind, anything would be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, it's cool.
No, not complain, but it does take.
So for dad life, then F-Type is good. F-PACE, sorry. F-PACE, not F-Type.
E-PACE, sorry. E-PACE is good.
E-PACE is good.
Little bit of there's a little element of an old school hot hatch behind the E-PACE.
All right.
Again, like Jaguar can make cars seem to do things. Like it's a heavy car.
Right.
The E-PACE. It shouldn't be as heavy as this. The F-PACE is a heavy car.
Yeah.
But
a big boy.
But they drive in a way they shouldn't. They all drive like sports cars. So what we just launched actually, which was the F-PACE SVR.
Monster.
Which I've been waiting for a while.
Is it bonkers?
In a roundabout sort of way, again, it's like you have to recalibrate your head because you drive this car.
Yeah.
And we were driving in Route Napoleon last week. And
amazing. What a place for it.
Engine, that V8 supercharged engine is, I still think, one of the best engines on the market. It's just put that in anything and it's superb. So you've got the engine. But that car has always aspired to need more power. And it, the special vehicles operations have tweaked everything on, and you've got your sports seats. You have, so you have the practicality of that car.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous car. They haven't gone too over the top with the styling. It's subtle.
It looks chunky enough that you know what's up.
You know what's in your rear
You're around
mirror.
something with a bit of extra spice about it.
Absolutely.
But it's not overly flamboyant.
But it drives James like, I have to say, people will probably, and I say this, the most relevant Jaguar. They've got everything right on that car. As in, just everything. It looks subtle, but it's not over the top. It's very British.
That's a bold statement. I'm gonna have to drive this.
You might. Cool. People say, well, it's not because the I-PACE is electric, and it's the I-PACE is a study in where we are going in the future of cars. At this moment,
For sure.
For me and you to say we're family guys,
Yeah.
and this is where I think Jaguar, and I love Jaguar bits, haven't had that. Because I need something, for example, like, I can't have the two-seat sport. I can, but we need another car. So I need a family car. But I want something that when the kids and the girlfriends and everything else out, I want something that is fun to drive.
Sure. Just engaging.
People on the street give me the nod because they still know it.
Yeah, still
and
appreciate
I think
it's
always,
cool.
So Audi RS6, Audi RS4,
Yeah.
that kind of S car, this is basically it. However,
That's the one.
and it's SVO, 540 brake horsepower, a little bit more, 0-60 in 4 seconds, sounds like
Not
a
hanging
Spitfire.
around. Well, they do, don't they? They sound insane.
They sound incredible.
Yeah.
And it just handles,
Amazingly
absolutely
well.
handles. And you drive the car and you get out and you go, how can that thing handle, a bit like talking about the Lamborghini
The tech
Urus
now,
and stuff.
I mean, the anti-roll systems right now. So at the minute, Bentley have lent me a Continental GT.
Yeah.
I've got it for about 5 months-ish. The way this thing bends physics, man. I mean, but this car is just all about stats. It's got some mad, it's got like 3 miles of stitching in it and, all of this stuff. But the stat which impresses me the most about is the anti-roll system develops more torque than the engine to keep it level, right? I think it develops 1,300 Newton meters of torque through a 48 volt system in order to keep this thing in check, right? And this thing is approaching 2.5 tons.
Yeah.
Size 600, it's over 600 horsepower. And sometimes I turn this thing in and I forget what I'm in. It's just flat, man. It just rides so flat. But the magic of it is there's this setting where you can create a sort of bespoke driving profile for yourself. So you can have it in like super soft suspension. You can change the steering weight to sport, and you can have the gearbox.
It's the same with the dynamic system. It's the same thing.
Man, and it's like the most ridiculous experience because on the one hand it feels a little bit magic carpet. It just irons out all of the bumps, and then you turn it in, and you're thinking there's no way that thing that just went over a pothole as if it wasn't there a minute ago is going to go around this corner like it is there right now. It's amazing, right? It's incredible how it works.
The technology behind what Bentley and have done is pretty astounding.
It's a cool thing.
But with going back to the Jag, with the F-PACE SVR, the thing is about that car as well is there have been the F-Type SVR. Love that car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a supercar, but such an easy driving supercar.
Yeah, I bet.
But there was a time where it's 115k. It should be good.
For sure.
And even now, like we're saying that, but that doesn't sound expensive compared to Astons and everything else.
You just have to look at some of the cars here.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the SVR, the F-PACE SVR is 75, I think it starts at 75,000. So again, it's a lot of money, but then if you're comparing it to Range Rover SVRs,
for sure,
they're starting at 86, 95. I think our Audi RS6 is starting 80. By the time you've ticked a few boxes, you're probably at 90, 95.
Absolutely.
Maybe even
very
more.
Much so.
And this is a pretty spec'd up. So I said to Jaguar, you've got everything right on this car.
Yeah.
Which are why I'm going back to saying it's the most relevant car because as well as having it, driving well, sounding great, practical, it's 75 grand. It's amazing, isn't it? It seems really, really good value.
Think of that as a pre-owned buy as well. I mean, that's going to be value. Right? Incredible.
Absolutely.
So you drove this thing on the Route Napoleon.
Yeah.
How was it? How was it on the brakes? Because for me, there's a lot of the time the brakes are overlooked because you got this heavy car with a shed load of power on the Route Napoleon.
Well, they didn't. I was quite surprised because, I mean, like the SI, I had on the one before me was the carbon brakes.
Right.
So I thought with this, for the press ups, they would have had carbon brakes on all of them.
Right.
They didn't, and I thought, God, we're going down
2-ton
car.
Yeah, man.
Hamming it down,
downhill as well.
No problems whatsoever. No one had problems, and a few people questioned it, and the engineers went very confident. Our brakes absolutely fine.
Right.
And I've kind of learned to, sort of with the Jags now, with the Jag engineers. I trust them exactly what they say. They're like,
fantastic,
no, we're. And you could see the confidence. That car was delayed because there were a few critical parts that weren't up to scratch, which I think is quite a point with Jag. They're saying like we're not rushing into something here. Things need to be right. So that's an impressive car. So
fantastic.
So, I mean the F-Type I've been driving for years.
Yeah.
Absolute years, and I'm not particularly tired of it, James. To be honest, I still enjoy looking at it.
Yeah.
I still enjoy getting it. It locks, and I put it outside the house, and I still look at it.
You have that one extra look back
it's
over
a
your
good
shoulder.
looking car.
Yeah,
yeah.
mega.
The only thing I would have liked seeing with F-Type, I would have loved them to do it. They've done a sport brake version,
Yes, that would have been cool though.
like a a
Yeah.
2+2 4-seater. I think that would have.
Something a bit more practical.
I think that would have done quite well. I don't. You know what? It's amazing when we can go, why haven't car companies done this? Why haven't car companies done? Because to do that, just to put back and say, would have cost 150 million pounds.
Massive
Like,
operation.
oh, okay, I didn't quite. We
then the
think
business case is like based off some dude on Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You've seen one clay model and you think, yeah, you think you know what you're doing. No, I do. Give me a bit of clay and I'll do it. But yeah,
it's true.
So it's a tough time to be in the car, right?
Yeah.
In the car game at the moment.
And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, and certainly instead of age, you've just restored an XK120.
Jaguar Classics, yep.
That's cool.
Yes, so they've done that in record time because we're taking it down to Monaco next week.
Amazing.
So yeah, we're at a 1954 XK120.
Beautiful.
So I did the 190 SL, I did the 1960 Mercedes 190 SL.
Actually, when we met first time round, which we'll speak about shortly, because that time was cool. When I think we were out in Italy, casually drifting with Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas, which we shall get around to shortly. But I remember you telling me that you were towards the end of restoring your Merc.
Yeah.
I think.
Probably.
Is that still here?
That's still here.
That's still here. Okay, cool.
That's still here.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car. We restored it back to originality, not bolt.
Yeah.
Even getting to the point where they had an option of a 5-piece luggage set made from the same leather as the seats. We even bought that in and bought an Italian guy to come and make those for us. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. Yeah. Not a particularly driver's car.
For sure.
Beautiful. Okay. I've always thought it was just one of the most beautiful classic cars. So we've got that. The same guy is restoring a 65 356 coupe for me at the moment. That's about to be finished. Man. And then Jaguar doing the F-PACE. So the 190 is totally original, how it would have come out showroom.
Fabulous.
There's a few feckled things on the 356.
Okay.
Not much though, and the 120 is we've made it into a race version of it. So the twin windscreens, vents on the side, cooling, engine still the same.
And is that because you're planning on using it?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're driving it from here down to...
So we were planning to
Monte Carlo.
Drive it in the Mille. Unfortunately, just with work and life and everything else, we couldn't do it. So I've raced in the Mille twice in the XK120s.
Yeah, cool.
So I just wanted to race my own, that race in my own car. So I spoke to Classics about it, and they said, we think we can do it. So
amazing.
Maybe next year.
Next year, man. That's it.
Next year.
I
did conversations.
Mille for the first time last year.
Right.
I was with Alfa Romeo, and I was in a car I'd never heard of. I didn't even know this thing existed. It turns out for good reason, because like 3 were ever made, and this one was left. Yeah. Right. And so they pulled this car out of their like heritage museum. It was called a 1900 Sport Spider.
Okay.
Value was, apparently this thing was just like, they were even amazed that they got sign off to put me in this thing, right? I didn't even ask. I was like, oh, I don't want to know, you know? But man, this trip, I mean, I have rallied for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And this car, I kid you not, man, there was holes drilled in the footwell so that the excess fuel would drain out from around my ankles. You know, I mean, it was that old. You know, it was insane. And I remember feeling a bit high off these fumes. And bearing in mind, this thing doesn't have a roof. So imagine if it had you have a roof, I'd be dead.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, yeah. And I just remember finishing this event, and you know that iconic picture of Sterling Moss when he's got all the dirt around his goggle marks? I had exactly the same thing, man. It was just incredible. And I was sunburned. I had flies in my teeth.
It's a mad.
But I wouldn't have changed it for the world, man. It was incredible.
No, I went back and you often think, you finish it and think,
I'm done.
Not doing
Get that.
Yeah. And then you think, the next year comes out, you go, well, I suppose I could do it. And then it's
cool.
It's a crazy. It's not a race, of course. We should never call it a race.
Yeah, a race. Yeah,
real race.
It's a rally.
I mean, I did it with Yasmin Le Bon one year. And we actually we had an off on that one. She was unfortunately driving. Another competitor came with overtaking. And this is how quickly it came. We were coming out of, was it Rome? I think the third day or second day.
I mean, what an occasion that is, by the way. Yeah.
Streaming wet, coming out of it with public traffic.
Yeah.
Some nutcase trying to go past. realised he wasn't going to, and then just came into us.
And just
we went
sideswiped
down
you.
the bank,
Are you
and
kidding?
luckily we were okay and patched up the car and carried on. All part of the race, we were all fine.
Yeah.
We actually, we were well positioned that year.
I actually preferred the excitement of the road driving. So the irony of it is, as part of the time stages, they close roads for you to drive up these stages. But in my world, when you close a road, it's so you can go flat out. But in this historic race, the frustrating thing about it is you've got this closed road and you're restricted because you have to meet the certain time criteria.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was with Derek Hill, son of Graham Hill.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, three hill climbs in, we were like, forget this. Let's just hit it. So on the outside of the timed run, there's this like slip road, isn't there? Man, we were just tanking it. Like we were at the back of the list within 4 hours. We were just out of it. But as a result, the trip was so enjoyable, because
a lot of people, kind of, I think, take that route, or they just miss those times and they go round it and then they come back into the race. Because compared to where, you overtake everyone. It's a bit of a race, and then you all have to wait for your time spot, don't you? So you all wait around.
Everyone's queuing up.
And we're all right, and then
and
we
if
all
your
go
car's
again.
really old, it overheats because you just sat in the baking Italian sunshine with no air flowing through your 1950s radiator.
I mean, what I love, which I don't know if they still do, is have the nutcases that take you through the towns.
They do.
In the Golfs. And
they've got this. Yeah.
The
They've
Fiat
all this
500
crazy
come
stuff.
up with like 4 guys going, "God, follow me!"
Yeah,
and they're like absolute nutcases.
And
but
the
they
police
have
are
to
just
keep
as
it going.
unhinged, right?
Absolutely.
The police, on my experience, we had 2 police motorcyclists, and they would operate on this sort of jump system where one would fly up in front of us, stop the traffic, we'd all fly through, and the one that was still with us would then hop in front. And they were just on this cycle of just mental driving. Red lights, green lights, whatever light was on, they'd block it, we'd fly through.
And they have a go at you for
Incredible
going
experience.
too slowly.
Yeah, they do.
Like, that's the
if you're
thing.
not
It's
on
like,
it.
don't stop. Like, keep on
But
going.
you could really tell, can't you, that it's part of the culture there.
The Italian culture.
The Italian culture.
We just have everyone to come,
come.
2 o'clock in the morning, streaming rain. There's still people on site.
Still out there.
Go.
And the whole route, it's like this sort of 5-day picnic, isn't it? Everyone's out there.
Imagine trying to do that in this country.
Forget it. It's just simply not an option.
With a demonstration that's in the first town.
Lockdown.
It's whereas any
Forget
other
it.
country, like
That's
it would.
Absolutely.
Apart from
it's crazy,
probably South America, which is do the
Yeah.
Pan America. What's
that
the other
one. So apparently that is supposed to be the last of the lawless road races.
Right.
The Panamericana, right? Which he
that's
goes
it.
through like Mexico. I mean, that's all I need to say, right? I mean, it's a friend of mine did it, and he was like, he wasn't sure if he was going to come back alive or not. Like halfway way through, he just genuinely thought, this is bad, man. Like
Really?
he said, the driving was just insane, and the places they stayed were
the
super
Mille,
dangerous.
the classic cars, you have that. With the point of classic cars is they're not going to go as fast as some of the modern, but you have the Porsche clubs and everything, the Ferrari clubs.
That's right.
And they're the nutcases are
They're
flying
on it.
around in course.
Yeah.
And
So
I've seen some awful driving
Ferrari have a tribute race, don't they?
on the Mille.
Yes,
right,
on that. That's a little bit more in check. But on the Panamericana, it's like
We
it's
also
the Wild
had-
West.
So we obviously Mercedes are main sponsors, and then there's Maserati teams, and we all have the backup, the vans and the support teams and everything else. And then in the end, it was getting so competitive. Their support teams, Mercedes, they were letting their cars go past and then pulling out and holding us up. I mean,
I know, it's like,
no
come
racing
on.
does
No,
not exist.
yeah, imagine it.
I love those. 3-4 days now.
Yeah,
4 days.
4 days.
But when it was 3 days, I had to say I preferred the 3 days.
Yeah, it's an
it was
intense event as well. And you get in so late that I found that in terms of socializing, it wasn't that great. Because you get in and everyone's dead. Everyone's just like, forget it. And you're up at like 6 and you're in at 1 and you're just absolutely shattered. So it's just this cycle of like intense driving with flies in your teeth. It sounds like I'm putting this event down. I'm not.
No,
it's
one of the
actually
greatest things.
incredible, but it's not a holiday, this event.
No, God, no.
It spits you out, doesn't it? And you're like, good God, what just happened?
Yeah, but the feeling of going over the line at the end
Is amazing.
and you're pushing the car, you're finishing, and then you're having a cold beer. There is no
It's
feeling
something
like it.
fantastic.
But it's so funny. So when I speak, it's funny when I speak to Brad.
Yeah.
And there's 2 things I've always tried, and they go, "We need something different." I say, "Have you ever heard the Mille Mille?" would you like to sponsor, on the next one is like the Pan Americano.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
have you ever heard of the
about
Pan
this?
Americano? They're like,
What
what are you talking about?
What is this craziness?
It's always, everything if I use it, it's like, get it on so I can drive something fast. And we'll include that within the campaign, the advertising of this somehow.
So cool.
It's worked a couple of times.
This year I'm doing the Modena Centaure. Never done it.
Never heard of it, no.
Me either. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Never done it. A friend of mine just invited me and was like, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, yeah, okay, cool. He's like, it's like the Mille Miglia, only you get in at 8 and you start at 8, you know, and it's a bit more enjoyable, and the time stages are on racing circuits, so you actually go like full bore. He says there aren't any like, you know, closed roads, slower sections. So I was like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. So yeah, man, it'll be fun. That
really,
one. So,
really fun.
So yeah, the original idea then was you were supposed to do it in your K120.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah, as I said, sort of life and work has gone in the way a bit. So looking at it again next year.
Yeah, that'll be a special moment, man.
But yeah, so we turned the engine for the first time Monday.
Oh, go right, that's
it sounds incredible.
Does it?
So the guys haven't really done much to like the engine.
Yeah.
So everything's renovated and restored. We've got 225 brake horsepower of it, bespoke exhaust.
Fabulous.
It sounds fab.
Does it?
Absolutely fab. Yeah, it's a special car. So there's a few. The way I like to do classic cars, like the 190 is how it was originally. This one with Vettel a little bit to put my stance on it in some ways.
Great.
And they're recreating the D-type racing car at the moment.
That's a hell of a project.
Yeah. So I've actually got that leather. So they've got this aged, beautiful leather. And they said, "What leather?" And we're going through everything. And I went, that one. What's that one?
What are you putting in that project?
Yeah. A few other D-type D-type buttons in there as well that wouldn't have been in the X8. But that's the way I'd like to just change the cars into.
It's nice to make it your own. You know, I mean. First of all, you're doing an amazing job effectively recycling these cars.
Absolutely. Well, yes.
And then to be able to put your own, tweak and stamp on it, it's cool. Particularly if you're going to enter into the Mille Miglia, dude. That's going to be incredible. If you have that stamp on your car as well, in terms of substantial heritage and sort of adding provenance to a car, to have done an event like that, it's fantastic.
When you talk about sort of cooling and
sure.
Oil pump filters and stuff like that, you are making the car more drivable. In the XA120, your dip beam is activated by a push button on the left-hand side of the clutch. So you've actually got you've got 3 pedals, and I was like, first time, what is this? Lights going on and off, and
Is that how it works?
So and they went, how far? And I said, no, that's got to.
No. How about we put that back on the dash?
So we all looked back at it, and I said, I've never really liked that anyway. I've got big size 11 feet that don't really work out, but so we've got put adjustable pedals on it.
Cool.
And then they said, well, look, on the D-type, it's a button by the thing, and I said,
let's do that.
Works with me.
That sounds cool.
Works with me. So there's those little things, and of course there's no roof. Got rid of the roof. Proper racing spec.
What about up-rated brakes? Because let's face it, I mean, did that originally come with drum brakes?
Drums on the rear. So Jaguar, the first ever car brand in the C-type with disc brakes. So we've got discs at the front.
Discs front, drums back.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So no, we're not driving those cars at stupendous speeds.
No, of course, for sure.
And this is what I kind of say about modern day stuff when we were talking about McLarens and driving out.
Yeah.
These machines are so phenomenally good now that you are driving at such phenomenal speeds that it is kind of easy. There is a point of it is so easy. Yeah. Where you get back into a classic car and you have to recalibrate on how to drive again.
100%.
Double declutching. We're looking at the cars in front, because you know that car's stopping, you're not going to stop. Now, you'll know you're stopping on 6 months.
And old brakes,
That's the challenge I quite like about driving a classic car.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Right now, it's effortless. I mean, half of my life is spent, and it's a fantastic experience, but I'm going on all of the latest, greatest car launches of these new supercars. And sometimes I'll look down at a speedo, like, how the hell did I arrive here? And I think that's a shame that you can reach those speeds and it not be it doesn't be packed full of drama, right?
Which is a credit to engineers,
of course it is.
Safety, electronics, stuff like that.
That's it.
But we were with the SVR launch last week. We were driving. You've suddenly got a lot of people, and there's the motoring press. And then you've got lifestyle press. And you've suddenly got lifestyle press that are driving a 540 brake horsepower car, 2-ton car, around the route in Poland, and they're not understanding kind of the physics of a car.
What's happening right
to
now.
the point of where, you know, I sort of had to say to a couple of people, right, maybe I'm going to take over now. Because they see everyone driving in that manner, they don't realise that the car is keeping them on that road. And I felt like saying to them, if you've ever driven another time at Goodwood, Noble in there, was it M6? I can't remember what the crazy last thing was. It's got 3 buttons, 400, 500, 600.
That's right,
And no one wanted to drive. It was cold, it was wet, cold tyres, no ESP, no traction. He was like, David, you've driven it before you get into it. I was like,
thanks,
not
mate.
in your name. Do I want to? And they said, go on, oh God, I'll go with you. So I drove 600 brake horsepower, and that is a car that will, if you do not brake in a straight line, you try and put the power on too early, it will spit you out. And it did. So many times was that circuit closed, and we were like, someone's going Noble again. But people are understanding for the first time. Caterham's will in some ways. Like a Caterham is one of those cars. You have to go back, and I love that about that car. A Caterham to me, if you like, someone says, stupid, what would you, if someone gave you a car drive, I'd be like, give me a Caterham with 200 brake horsepower every time. I would take
so
one of those
engaging,
cars.
so involving, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, when I started driving McLarens, you know, I had to take a step back and be like, the performance of this is so absurd that I thought that, you know, supposing some young guy comes into some cash quickly and then gets himself in a 720S or a 675 LT. Man, I mean.
Well, did you see the guy, the YouTube in the Lamborghini, launch control?
Yeah.
In London the other day.
Yeah. I mean, that thing binned it. And that's 4-wheel drive, dude.
4-wheel drive on launch control.
4-wheel drive on launch control, and it still managed to spit him in a tree. You know. And I do feel bad for him. You know, there was a lot of hate for that guy. But, you know, he didn't go out that afternoon to go, I know what I'm going to do. You know, I mean, it's still his car, and you know,
luckily, no one
was fine, but
I think people have to realise now the speed, and that's, you know, when I said to you, James, the most fun I've had at Goodwood the last few times is when Mercedes gave me A45.
That's it, man.
And it's been me and a good friend, you know, blasting around in these, having so much fun. Because there is a limit to it, and there's even there.
But it's because it's rare. Like these days, it's so rare to get in a new car and be able to use all of it. Like to be able to fully extrapolate the full performance of a car and have your foot flat on the boards these days is rare. You know, because they're so capable. There's so much grip, so much traction, new tire development. Even if it doesn't have that much power, the way they go around corners is just like glued.
And that's the point. It's kind of, they all are turning into these cars where you're heading, you get a straight and you're back and you're at the next corner, you're like, and you're like, where you want to drift, you want to slide, you want to be able to like have, you know, that car on the limit. And that's 100%. When they're bringing, I think there's like a few cars now that, you know, sort of, what Toyota, the F86 thing, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
not like brake horsepower.
GT86?
GT86, real
skinny tyres. A little bit of power.
So much fun.
Yeah, lots of sideways without going crazy fast.
And you kind of look on a Sunday morning, you go and think on the country, well, what should I take? You want something
fun, don't you? Yeah. That's it, man. Yeah. So I've recently started this series on the channel, which is focusing on modern classics, right? And we went as early as '86, which was around about the F40, conveniently.
Yeah.
And you know, it's really made me think actually, because I got so swept up in this world of, as I mentioned, the latest, greatest, fastest supercars that I forgot that actually, you know, 200 horsepower in an old car, which was much less weight. I mean, granted, the A-pillars are like matchsticks, and it's probably this dangerous, horrifically dangerous box on wheels.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, I was driving this B30 M3. And like foot on the boards, man, and just working the box and heel and toe, and the balance of this thing was wonderful because it wasn't controlled by electronics. Like there was no lights flashing on the board saying "I've got your ass." You know, if you cock this up, you've cocked this up. Yeah. But as a result, there was this sort of there was definitely this underlying sense of I have to have this. You know, like, and when it did step out and got a little bit Larry, it was like, woo, you know, it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And it was great. And that was so engaging. And the great thing about them was they were, you know, these cars were accessible cars. When I went to Geneva Motor Show this year, I was there in March, you know, brands are casually dropping multi-million-pound supercars as if it's nothing. You know, and I walked around every stand and I couldn't find a car that was realistically aspirational for your average petrol head. There wasn't anything, you know. I was like, what's happening here, you know? And then, listen, I love where electric cars are going, but on the other hand, you know, people are dropping cars with 2,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, 2,000 horsepower. I mean, a Formula One car is like 800. That's plenty. Yeah. You know,
No,
this is plenty of power. And these things wear number plates, man. I know. You know, like, where's it going? How much joy are you really going to get out of that?
I've never thought you need more than 500 brake horsepower in a car.
I agree, man. Yeah.
So cars, I mean, we're talking Audi's now 700 brake horsepower, Ferraris, and you're like, just
bonkers.
When are you going to?
Bonkers stuff, dude.
It's mad. So I always think 500 brake horsepower is that nice.
It's a sweet spot, isn't it? It's
fast enough. Saying that, it's fighting. You know, I used to go mad when I got a Peugeot XSI with like 90 brake horsepower. It's like, oh my God, 90 brake horsepower.
I mean, really, it should be really all to do with the weight, really, shouldn't it? I mean, 500 horsepower in an SVR, you know, that's acceptable because you're hauling 2.5 tons of car around. But, you know, 200 horsepower in a, you know, 1,000 kilogram car, now that's fun, man. Absolutely. You know, and they dance and they handle and they're playful and they're not an intimidating, scary car. No. I remember doing an interview in a car with someone, and it was the driver who was interviewing me, and I won't name names. And it was on the 720S launch. Yeah. And we came out of this hotel, right? And this person floored it. And I mean, flat on the boards, dude. And I looked at the dash and it was like a Christmas tree, mate. Yeah. The computers must have woken up and gone, oh shit, like we're gonna die. And just went, and it just kept us in check. Person driving was completely oblivious to the fact that if this car was I don't know, something from 10 years ago, we'd have been dead. Yeah. But we'd have been dead. Absolutely. You know, and that for me was a clear example of us being just soft now, because we don't realize that 710 horsepower is being controlled for us. You know, we have no awareness of that. Under our foot is a bomb, you know, because
and I don't think
the computer says no.
Yeah, I would look over the dashboard sometimes and look when someone's driving fast and thinking, just watching they're not even aware that the airspeed and traction is on. They wouldn't.
Everything's, you know,
which, don't get me wrong, there's a lovely safety net there.
Oh, dude, it's a very good thing.
If you're not always on it all the time, you're not always paying attention.
It's a very good thing.
I mean, I wrote off a Lotus 111R once. Not even driving particularly very fast, like back of a country road, wasn't like knowing I was a little bit tired, thinking, right, not going to hand. Spat off the road, just on a bend and slight lift off. And the next thing I'm mid-engine with a car, I'm in the...
Exploring the undergrowth.
It was.
Yeah, man, I know that feeling.
The little hedge trimming for the council.
Yeah. You ought to have sent them an invoice, man.
I think they sent me one.
Oh, God. I'm definitely not saying that it's a bad thing. No. I think from a driving point of view, it can strip away our awareness of just what's happening. You know. So let's go back to when people might be wondering, what's David Gandy doing here? How have you just randomly got this dude in here, and where we first met? Because that was cool, man. That was cool. So we were working with Williams F1 team at
Martini.
At the time, it was Williams Martini Racing, and they had hired out a track for us, which for the life of me I can't remember the name, called. But it was not far from Monza. And
we were there for the Monza F1.
That's right. We were there for the Grand Prix. Basically, they'd rented this circuit out for us, and they'd given us for the day Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas at the time was racing there, and we just went drifting, didn't we? We just went drifting around.
I had to try and talk to them, interview the guys.
Yeah.
We Lancer Delta. I can't remember what we were in.
We had a Integrale, a Lancia Integrale, and that was all decked out in the Williams Martini.
You couldn't
racing
hear
stripes. No, not at all.
I mean, it was one of these great ideas that seemed great. Where you two will have a chat.
Wouldn't it be great
while Massa,
if we put Massa in a Lancia rally car, and we'll rag it around a track and we'll interview him? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, really well.
Cool, great. Yeah.
Awesome. It was more entertaining than the F1.
Yeah.
Than the race. I remember that.
So what's happening there, man? I mean, do you follow F1?
It used to be something absolutely on a Sunday that I would follow.
Yeah.
On a Saturday, I would purposely look like I would
For sure.
the football results or something.
Yeah.
Who got qualifying? Who was first? Who was and then watch. I think everyone sort of watched parts of the race. I don't think anyone ever sat there. It was a lovely napping hangover cue, or I said F1. It's like I watch like the start, and then something a few things happen. I'll get towards like just over halfway, and I'll watch it from there. I don't find myself doing that anymore. And it might be age, and it might be something else, but looking at viewing figures of F1, which seem to be doing this.
Yeah, sadly going down.
And I think it's been, I think many things, successes of Mercedes, successes before of like say sort of Michael Schumacher of just years and years. And and you've got to sort of see it if it's who has got that car. You're looking at Vettel at the moment that was 4 times world champion, Red Bull.
Yeah.
Had that, he was in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
He cannot win.
No.
At the moment, because Mercedes is so good. Yeah. So it is about the car, and I think that is one of the problems, and aerodynamics and not much overtaking. They're trying to bring it back to basics somehow, make them we talk about driver aids and everything else.
Right.
What if you put these, what if you took everything off?
Wouldn't that be great?
And actually saw if these guys can properly drive. But
just slightly less aero as well, maybe, so the cars
I would go, I would go slower lap times, less high speed, less
because
top
lap
speed
times for the audience doesn't mean anything.
No,
the audience has no greater entertainment factor or sense of connection if that lap would be 5 seconds a lap slower. You'd have no idea, right? So, and let's face it, it exists because it's a spectator sport.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound like I'm banging the same drum, and it's a generic comment, but I'd be interested to get your take on it. The sound now, the sound of these cars. How about personally? How has it affected your enjoyment personally of F1?
I think we were talking about going to races, and I was very fortunate to go to Monaco.
Yeah. So we were actually at the same race.
Yeah.
Which transpired to be the last naturally aspirated Formula One race.
Which, when you hear those vibrations off of Monaco, you don't need to be seeing the race. It's just being part, as we said, being part of that spectacle and hearing those cars. And then we went back, and next time there was just nothing really.
I could have shed a tear. Honestly.
I think everyone is saying that. I don't think we're saying anything that people don't know.
No one else has said.
This is probably like what we're saying here is what everyone is saying.
Yeah.
Why aren't people listening? And there's a lot to do with sound, but I do enjoy Formula E. That's something I thought a couple of years ago I wasn't going to enjoy. But the race
is so close.
It's so close, and it's so much fun.
There's so much drama in Formula E.
Absolutely.
Because it's so close, there's always a crash or some kind of, and they're always nose to nose because it's in such a tight environment.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Formula E and why I'm not in the position to slag it off for having no sound is because it's supposed to not have it. It's embracing what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
I am a true believer that if you grew up with Formula One, forget Formula E. You just can't relate to it as much, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the point. I think it's such an early development test bed for our kids, for example. Yeah. They'll grow up thinking Formula E is just the norm. Whereas coincidentally, we are filming this today on the 25th, sadly, the 25th anniversary of the passing of Ayrton Senna. That is right now, as we sit here. And I was watching some old F1 videos. It's almost, I want people to go and watch them, but when you remind yourself of how insane those things sounded, I think gradually we've kind of forgot. But if you're ever at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and on that Saturday when the old cars go up, I say old, like 2010, you
can be miles away. I mean, literally miles away, and when there was an F1 car on the circuit.
And I honestly think we've underestimated the importance of sound between spectator and car. Yeah. Because those cars, I remember vividly that last Monte Carlo race, that famous first lap where everyone's bunched up and they pile into Fairmont hairpin corner. Yeah. And you've got over 20 of these cars coming out. Dude, these things used to spin up to 17,500 RPM, right? Yeah. I remember the diaphragm in my chest would physically vibrate. And so you had a literal, tangible connection between car and spectator. Going back the next year, honestly, I was sad, dude. Because I mean, I grew up with Formula One in my house.
Absolutely.
My dad used to put it on all the time.
Ayrton Senna. I mean, it's almost like, do you know where you were?
Where you were.
And I was at my grandparents' house. We just had roast dinner, and it came on the news because we were watching F1.
Yeah.
Saw the tragic. It came off, and I remember the news, and then literally that news said, Ayrton Senna has been an accident. And my dad, who's not an F1 fan, not a racing fan, just went, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that's how big it was. And that documentary, Senna, I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen Senna.
Yeah.
It's I might just catch it on an ITV2 a late night, and I'll be like, I've seen it.
I'll just watch it.
25
I'll watch it anyway.
Times, I'll see it again.
Gives me goosebumps.
And then, are you lacking in personalities like Senna, Prost, all those?
Yeah, I mean, the world has changed in terms of it being so heavily branding and sponsorship driven that the drivers, just as a byproduct of that, become such an ambassador of those brands that all of a sudden they're like these media trained PR robots, right? So it's very rare occasion to have any flamboyancy, any sort of rebellious nature in F1 is rare now.
I'm quite surprised because remember how big kind of Group B or Group B rally. WRC.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up probably more of a fan. I mean, I probably went to see more WRC races in Wales and Cheltenham stuff like that than I probably did with F1. Right. Because those drivers,
nuts.
I've never seen anything like. I mean, F1 drivers,
we ever will see anything like it.
Still to this day, we go, you could probably drive an F1 car.
Yeah.
I would spin in the first corner, and there'd be a big, crash. We think it's easy, but it's not. But with those rally guys, I mean, that's just absolutely
next level skill.
Yeah.
It's
they're in
unbelievable.
fog, snow,
doing
doing 150 miles an hour with a 400-foot drop, and carrying on.
Yeah,
I'm never surprised that's not sort of come back into, especially with technology now, because I know it was always very hard to televise when you got cars on time trials, but with ghosting technology and everything else now, and I think they could take advantage of something, the racing of,
absolutely,
or the lack of racing in F1 to go back to something like this, especially with the X thing, where they're on the two tracks and they cross each other,
and they end up over
in America, which is becoming quite big.
That's pretty cool.
Bringing one of those on the weekends as well.
Was it World Rallycross? I think it is.
World Rallycross,
where they basically have a figure of 8 halfway through the track.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how someone doesn't end up spooning each other because it's crazy. Every time. But yeah, it's
if you had a race and then one of those as well, that'd be a great weekend.
Have you ever watched super stadium trucks? They're those guys, dude, they've got like ramps halfway through the track and they just take off.
Yeah.
Man, that's entertaining. Like these guys land and they land too hard and their suspension just like blows out and they spin across the finish line. There's smoke and everything. But it's crazy. It's the craziest thing.
The thing is with F1, and this is going to sound absolutely terrible, and this might be controversial.
No, far away.
The danger has been taken out of F1.
Certainly to a massive degree.
To a massive degree. Which is, of course, a great thing. It's a good thing. However, that there is human nature in the fact that I guarantee 100%. That when there is a wet race, we're more entertained. Because it actually pushes everyone together. There's more spins, there's more crashes, there's everything else.
Yeah.
That is human nature.
It is human nature.
And there was always that point to it. To the point now of, you've got the halo and of course safety is one of those.
It's a good thing. But drama is the inherent nature of it as well.
It's why I watch boxing, it's why I watch all these different things. And that sort of nature of it, it's just a lot of quiet, very fast machines not overtaking each other.
It's quite surgical.
You think of that practical with a lot of quiet F1 drivers who don't seem to have that personality, and like you want them to fight.
Yeah,
the Prost Senna. You want them. You want them that drama.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be allowed now.
I miss the time when you wouldn't know what someone would say when they were being interviewed, but I basically wasn't alive at that time. But when there was, I've watched historic interviews of the likes of James Hunt, and you're just waiting to see what he's going to say, because anything could happen, And I think the character and the rock star nature has been taken out of it, really, isn't it? That's what it is.
I mean, Kimi's quite funny.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's very cool. I mean, I love the fact in Monaco he just crashed his car, didn't even bother to go to the pits. He just walked with helmet and thing onto the boat.
Straight to his yacht.
Yeah.
Good lad. Yeah. That is cool.
Absolutely.
That is cool.
And I'm a fan of Kimi because of that.
Of course.
And then I kind of want him to do well because of that reason. I've always thought he was a very, very cool driver. Well, I know any of the others as well. But Jensen was a fairly cool guy and good guy as well. And he's kind of left. He's now working on the commentary side.
Yeah.
I do worry about the younger guys coming in, whether there are that, those characters around anymore. So I think it's with F1, it's many, many different things. The sound, the racing, the personalities, the sponsorships and everything else now.
It's just a bit sanitized. I think that's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
As fast as it is, no one cares.
No, I think it's become this very where they've got all the movie stars and music stars and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think as a car fan, you're like, great.
Cool, but is it detracting from the point?
How many motoring enthusiasts are really properly watching this at the moment and enjoying it?
Although I do have to say, what I enjoy almost, and certainly for some races, more than the race itself, is I love the build-up to see what the drivers have been up to in the city they're in. Because I think people just like to see what they don't see. They want to see these people being human and just having a good time or seeing whatever they do in a city on the build-up to it. I like that side of things, So more behind the scenes stuff. That'd be cool. If you're watching F1, that'd be great.
Yeah. But I do completely. Well, that's social media, really. Then it's people believing that they are getting something that they are, and there is still that mystery. People say to me in the retail game, why do we Barber, Belstaff, and everyone? Why is Paul Newman still on their posters? Sorry, why is not Paul Newman, Steve McQueen. Why is Paul Newman still? Why do we have this mystery of James Dean? Why? Because we know nothing about them.
That's right. Yeah, it's so true.
And so you see a picture. I've never seen that picture. I never knew this. Because every movie star, not every movie star, everyone now is not a mystery.
You're absolutely right.
There's no secret. There's Hollywood mystery because we know what they had for breakfast. We know they're in the gym. We know what they're shooting.
That's right.
There's no mystery behind it. Yeah. So that mystery is behind people. It makes me Daniel Craig is a great example. Because him and Rachel you know nothing about them. So there is still always I love that mystery because he is James Bond.
Of course.
So if there's an interview with him, I think, I know nothing about him actually. I really want to read that.
Yeah, of course.
You pass to somebody else, you go, well,
that's true. I kind of know everything about that guy anyway.
Really interesting.
I was listening to a podcast last night. Funnily enough, it was a Formula One. In fact, it was the official Formula One podcast, and it was an interview with Luca de Montezemolo, the ex-Ferrari team manager.
Principal.
He was principal manager. He said when he worked with Enzo, a massive part of the brand was his mystique, right? He never attended a race, and every time he gave an interview, he would always wear black sunglasses. So you would never see him, He said as soon as the interview was over, he'd have his reading glasses back on, and it was fine. But a massive part of the intrigue of the brand was the mystique of Enzo himself, and he was just never went anywhere. He said that Luca got married, didn't come. He wanted to be this like ghost of Ferrari. Mad, isn't it? Right? I mean, he lived the brand that much that he didn't go to his, arguably his best mate's wedding, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. Yeah. So, it's madness.
Have you seen Frank Williams, the Williams documentary?
That was probably the last time I saw you, was when we went to the...
Frank Williams got married.
That's right, yeah.
And then didn't even, so had a Coke and then went to...
went back to work.
Went back to the factory.
I know.
See, that's their you talk about living and breathing.
I know, it's unreal, isn't it? But that documentary made me a bit sad because there wasn't a great amount of joy in it, Like the whole story was one massive trials and tribulations, and I was thinking, God... What's great about it was it's a massive, despite the odds, they are still one of the longest standing F1 teams. I mean, generally F1 teams come and go, right?
Very true.
But Ferrari and Williams, pretty long standing, really, for an independent.
Yeah, that's where you've got to say, where's the money gone into that? Yeah. If you have enough money, you can buy an F1 team and buy the best kind of.
Lance Stroll, It's amazing, isn't it? And that is the other thing about Formula One is that the money dictates such a massive part of it.
Of course. Mercedes, there's no mystique behind Mercedes and Ferrari spend the most
Spend the most money.
and they're the
Funnily
fastest
enough.
cars. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, now and again it will happen that a team will come up and they haven't spent
Yeah.
that much money. They'll be competitive, but you kind of have to think anymore. And that's where I think, going back to sort of Williams F1 is, it was based on the engineers and the car and the driver. It wasn't all about the money. It was like they,
For sure.
because I mean, when Senna was doing very well, Williams then came out with electronic.
That's right.
Was it an independent rear suspension, or was suspend all the wheels?
It was, yeah.
Or,
they were able to electronically adapt the
and traction.
suspension in real time.
I think Senna even said that in the when Benetton, I think, beat Williams, when he went to Williams, he was saying that Michael Schumacher cannot drive like this. That you have to invest this car.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're saying he can't be that much better than me. He can't be that much better, which is, you know, and still, you know, was it Monza where he died?
Yeah,
he still put that car on pole,
That's
even
unreal.
though he believed that Senna had all these, you know,
It's unreal, huh?
traction.
Unreal.
And,
yeah. Incredible.
I mean, it's I don't know, but what are you driving at the moment anyway? What are you?
My F12 TDF is
Okay.
over there. I haven't actually introduced where we are. We're sat in
No,
the
we
lounge.
should really do it.
We're sat in the
probably
lounge of
place.
NVN London.
What a lovely place it is to
Thanks,
be as well.
man. Yeah,
It's
we've only
very
been
special.
open. I mean, literally been open 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's been in the development for eight months now.
Yeah.
And it was born out of a service that I discovered in Dubai. So I flew my 458 Speciale to Dubai at the beginning of 2018.
Yeah.
And amazing experience, man. Imagine having something so familiar so far from home. You know, driving your right-hand drive English plated car past the Burj. You know, incredible experience. And the car culture out there is amazing, right? Anyway, so this company called NVN, who were originally founded in Dubai, reached out and they were like, hey, we're a PPF place. We apply paint protection film onto cars and we'd love you to stop by. Now, in my years of traveling in this game, normally if I spend an extended amount of time in most cities, someone will reach out and say, hey, we do this PPF thing and we take care of cars and we'd love you to stop by. So my first reaction was, oh, I've seen it all before, maybe I won't go. And I ended up going and I walked through the door of this place and I thought to myself, it feels like Apple has gone into PPF, right? Because it was just, it was like this. It was just an immaculate space. Anyway, long story short, I got on really well with Nick, the guy who founded this place. And after my month of being out there with my car, I was back home and I sort of didn't realize that I took for granted this space in Dubai as my hub for that month. And it had this little lounge and people would come in on a no obligation basis. They just come in and hang out, have a coffee, they talk. And the important thing was they would meet like-minded people, just petrol heads, right? And I was like, we don't have anything like that here. Like, we don't have anything like it. So I text Nick, and now I'll admit it was half jokingly, you know, half and half not, but I wasn't expecting to do it like the next week. And I said to him, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had this kind of place in London? And I will call Nick Quick Nick because 3 days after that text, he'd flown someone over from Dubai to go hunting for properties for us. And actually the longest job for us was finding the right place. Because most warehouses in and around London have been around a while and they're beaten, they're knackered and they just look horrible and there would be so much investment to make it look like this. And then we found this place and someone had moved out of it. And as part of the tenant agreement, they had to restore it to how they found it. And how they found it was this perfectly pure whitewashed box. And I was like, oh man, this place is great, you know. So yeah, 3 months backwards and forwards dealing on the lease.
You know, I think places like this are, they're going to become more common. And I think places are going to probably start buying tracks.
Yes, that's it, absolutely.
Because I think
petrol... Bicester Heritage, for example.
Absolutely.
Bister's going to be, their 5-year plan is next level, dude. They're building hotels and they're going to have this modern division for all new supercars and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Because it won't happen for quite a few years, but you know, we're looking at the cars that we're looking at here and my V8 outside and classics. there's a sell-by date now.
There is.
There is. There's
Very
put on
much
by
so.
the government,
You're
and we
absolutely
are
right.
moving
Yeah,
into,
yeah.
which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Hybrids, electrics, we're going into that. But in the end, but also people are becoming, I think, less and less interested in cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's
true.
like when someone tells me they have a Tesla,
Yeah.
I judge that person. Not for the bad, but I just think
I understand.
you can't have much. Do you have much interest in cars?
Yeah.
To that point,
No.
do you enjoy driving? Do you enjoy the process of the car, the
Are you a driver?
engineering, the everything? Yeah.
Well, are you a petrol head?
Are
Evidently
you
not.
a petrol head, basically?
Yeah.
And I think there was a stat the other day that there's less guys learning to drive now. I think actually there's more girls learning to drive than there are guys, but it's actually diminished. Like how many people? Like my first thing when I was 17 is you know,
driving license.
driving license.
First
Absolutely.
priority of all
Yeah,
priorities.
that was it.
Wheels.
All my friends were.
Yeah.
That's completely changed now.
Yeah, it's
That's
mad,
not the priority.
And a massive. I mean, I'm sure. Like, look, if you live in London, I did central London for 7 years. I mean, my petrol runs through my veins, and I barely stepped into a car because, you know, there's this amazing app called Uber.
Absolutely, and
you just drop a pin, and up turns a dude, and you don't have to worry about a car.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you live out of a city, wheels are obviously more important. But it's going that way. You know, you can just as easily get a
to the
taxi
point of where
or
people
anywhere
don't
else.
want to, you know, I think
want a
the
car.
younger won't want the expense or can't have the expense of actually buying a car.
That's right. Yeah.
So it will be car sharing.
Will our kids grow up with a driving license? Do you think? It's a long time.
What are we?
Years.
Yeah, well, yeah,
17 years, bro.
years.
I mean, if you speak to Ian Callum about what he thinks cars will be in 17 years, you can't even fathom it.
No.
You know, it's like what? Autonomous, self-driving. You know, like car share. It'll all be apps and Ubers.
I can imagine it will be.
Yeah,
I can't. I mean, if it was down to me, she'll
be having one.
Or,
Yeah.
Will
My
have
son will be having one.
Yeah.
And I'll put him in a manual first, for sure.
Whether they like it or
Manual,
not.
stick,
Yes,
three
exactly.
pedals. Yeah. You're going to appreciate autonomous driving so much more if you can drive a manual. Right?
But look how quickly, you know, we're talking about how quickly social media and how we communicate, how we market, how we retail has come. You know, there were lots of people, and this is why lots of brands are suffering at the moment, because they didn't think it was going to happen as quickly as it actually was, and they've got left behind. And there's a lot of brands that jumped on it too quickly, and they didn't quite understand how it worked. So they've suffered as well.
Absolutely.
So there's that middle ground. But that technology that's happening is. So I think that you are going to have little small knit communities of petrol heads like this, which is a brilliant, amazing concept.
What I'm hoping to, dear God, is that the cars that we own for pure enjoyment, and let's face it, cars, I think very similarly to watches, reach a point very early where it's no longer about getting from A to B, or in a watch's case, telling the time. You know, I mean, you can get a perfectly good Apple Watch, for example, which will tell the time way more accurately than this thing.
Yeah, of course.
But the petrol head or the watch aficionado buys them in for different reasons. What I'm hoping is that the car world goes like the equestrian world, in that there has never been any less need for a horse ever, right? Yet the equestrian industry has never been larger, right? And I'm hoping that the consumption of dinosaur juice, just burning fossil fuels, will become reserved for the die-hard purists, and that for every yin there's a yang, and I'm hoping that our yang will be full of people that have driven the demand for cars like that Senna there, for example, and it might be something that you only do on a sunny Sunday, but there might be these sort of purist divisions of automotive creators that are still running the naturally aspirated V12s and things like that. So while everything's going,
I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a time when we were driving. I was driving back from Yorkshire the other day to my in-laws, and baby's in the back, dog's in the back, Steph's in the. They're all asleep. 5 hours of driving on the motorway. And I sat there down and said, if I could press a button now that was automatic, and I could just sit here or have a snooze, I know against this, I would be happy if this car took me home now, because there was no fun in driving down the M6 and 50 mile an hour, as I told. Like there's no fun in that whatsoever.
For a commute, I would go autonomous tomorrow.
Absolutely.
100%, right? What I want though is if when I want to drive, there is still and let's face it, we are still allowed to enjoy these things, because that's ultimately what this is coming down to. It's And look, I don't want to destroy the environment. I'm not that guy. No. And I mean, this in fact might be a podcast in itself, because you can go on about this for a long time. But you know, for me, what is damaging is the mass-produced consumer cars driven by the millions, not the V12s which are brought out on a Sunday afternoon, and that have a much more sustainable life cycle. Because if you look at the average life cycle of a Volkswagen Golf versus a Testarossa, for example, I know which will be on the road for longer, you know, and ultimately, you know, part of a sustainable cycle of any product, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this in the fashion world.
Well, it's retail, absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
so in fashion, I know sustainability is a big thing, and it's not always about, you know, something just being recyclable. It's how long will you use that for? You know, you restoring that XK120 isn't just an appreciation for a classic car. You've extended its life. You don't have to build a car now as a result of that. So there's a bigger picture here.
There is a big picture. Yeah, in retail, it has gone through that route of disposable fashion. Yeah. People wearing, because they cannot wear something a few times, they need to be seen in the latest thing. And
isn't that crazy?
And they're buying items that, you know, when a t-shirt is £5 and when a dress is £10, it can't be and shouldn't be that cheap.
And it can't. I mean,
and how much water is being used? How many people have, you know, been used in the wrong factories around the world to make that?
Well, there was that case where that factory fell down. How many years ago? 6 or 7 years ago, that factory fell down. And at that time, I was still, I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth. I was designing underwear and swimwear in a factory in Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah. I'm not even kidding, dude. My life is flipped upside down. And I remember we used to get emails from clients saying how thankful they were that they bought their products from someone that manufactured in England, and they knew that it was an ethically produced product. That was actually, at that time, it was never part of our marketing message that there's no exploitation here. We just took it for granted that we made pants in England, right? Yeah. But that event really opened our eyes to it, you know.
Well, M&S, we've got, so we designed 5 suits last year, all from recyclable wool. So these are ones that are, you know, gone into charity with a swapping scheme with Oxfam.
Hey,
and they're made from that, and then wool that we use, that we are sourcing can be sourced back, completely traceable back to the farm, so you know where those animals are from, and
that's cool.
To the point of, so M&S are actually very, very good. So when we're talking about sustainability, and also you're talking mass here. You're talking mass high street.
Yeah,
it can be done. So when other brands go, it's very difficult, and very difficult. And then you've got, you know, it doesn't. When we talk about sustainability, I sort of take my mind back to something has to be made from ocean plastics, and it's not. There's simple things as buying clothing that you are keeping for 5 years, not 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
That's sustainability. I think that's what you're saying with cars, is that there's a lot of people who are buying cars every 2 or 3 years, swapping because of finance. And finance is another thing where it's very, very easy to do.
It's accessible now,
before it needs any money spent and everything else. They on to the next one, on to the next one.
100%.
And we're probably all guilty of that sometimes. But
of course, it
is about, do we keep, we're keeping cars now for 10 years and actually sort of keeping them, and that's why there is that. Am I saying that I've gone out and bought classic cars because I want to be the sustainable environmentalist?
No,
but there is that side to it that it's not that those cars are not just for me to enjoy.
Of course,
those cars go on display. They go into heritage races. Other people get to enjoy them as well, and that's very something important as well with car collections, that other people get to see them and get to enjoy them. They're not hitting away in a air-conditioned vault somewhere.
Because that happens a lot,
of course it does, because the price of classic cars have all gone up, and they've become investments.
That's right.
We're not even talking classic cars now. We're talking 1986 205 GTIs, which someone was.
They've become a real cult car lately. They've just gone on exploded.
Everything kind of has. I was looking at that, and they thought there was a reserve on one the other day at 30,000.
I mean,
I didn't know what that car cost originally.
It's like an egg box on wheels, isn't it? Really, it really is. But there's another example going back to it, just pure and light with enough power. You drive one of those, man, and throw it down a B road. dude. Like you're having fun.
If you want to learn about lift-off oversteer,
that is the car.
buy a Peugeot GTI something.
This is the car, something.
Yeah.
Send it in and lift off the accelerator.
Absolutely.
You have fun all day long, man. Yeah. And then if you want to go back to real boy racer routes, you go to an abandoned car park and put the handbrake on, and you put some trays under your wheels, and all of a sudden you've got a rear-wheel drive drift car.
Don't need a drift mode anymore.
Don't need drift mode, man. It's called trays. Trays under your handbrake on, trays under your wheels. Man, yeah, you're lit. You can learn all about.
There is that element of where we're not taught. People talk about speed. This is another thing. I'm driving to and from the country house at the moment, so we sit there on the motor. But I'm watching other, the driving of other people, which maybe it's me getting a grumpy old man. Of just seeing the driving getting worse.
Dude, I don't think it is you getting a grumpy old man. I mean, I'm driving up and down to here in London all the time. And I'm like, some people are just oblivious. I don't know what it is, if they're on autopilot or once again, these cars are making them feel so safe that
but there's
regular people just tanking past overtaking, well in excess of 100 miles an hour all the time.
And then people who are sticking to the middle lane and then they're getting a little ticket through because they're doing 79 and a 70 and they're not doing anything wrong whatsoever. But all these guys who know where the cameras are, and it's getting observationally worse. And I always have sort of thought with learning how to drive, when people were talking about the government talking about speeding, and I was like, put ESP, like electronic stability, in every car. Watch the desk go down.
For sure.
On every, from every, which I think they have done on a certain amount of cars, but on every car. If you're talking about, even a 1 litre Ford Fiesta has to have ESP.
For sure.
That's it.
And it is a lifesaver.
So desk will then go down. But this is, they always do things. This is, our government incentivizes all to buy diesel cars, and then realise that.
I realised it was a bad idea.
We're actually killing everyone. Well, there were people that said that in the first place now, and then those people are now going on to tax everyone with diesel cars, and then saying, well, you now all need to buy hybrids, and otherwise you're going to be taxed. And it's a wonderful way to go on.
It just keeps evolving. And right now, electric cars seem an interesting proposition because there's like no road tax and there's free charging and parking in London. But as soon as it becomes remotely mainstream, they'll find a way of taxing it.
Absolutely.
Of course, right?
Well, you have to think the amount of revenue that the taxi get from petrol.
Yes.
That's got to come from somewhere.
Of course it does.
Afraid.
Yeah.
And that's only going to come from us in one way or another.
What I am fascinated in, I always remember when I was at school, I was having like a science class, and I remember the teacher telling me that at the peak time of Coronation Street. Right. For any of you guys listening who are not in the UK, Coronation Street is a never-ending soap on British TV.
Well, I think it's probably the longest.
It's got to be the longest running TV show, and it is fabric of British society now. Anyway, at the height of that show, the power stations of the UK used to gear up for when the ad breaks came on, because people would get up and put on the kettle.
Yeah, put the kettle,
Because there was such a drain. There was this big spike of energy on our grid. Now that was a kettle, right? I'm wondering what's going to happen, or how we're going to gear up our grid for when everyone gets home after rush hour and plugs in a 3-phase car to our grid, right? What does that look like? Like, what does the infrastructure of that look like?
And by the way, this has to be done with renewable energy.
Otherwise, the exhaust pipe is just coming out of a coal-burning factory down the road. So we have to find a way, because otherwise there's no point in this movement of trying to power an entire country off. And
that's where my questions come into.
Where is it really offset?
Okay, if someone said, the government said, right, this is what we need to do by this stage with hybrids and electric wheelchair, and this is the amount of money we're putting into the infrastructure, and this is what we're going to do to there's big holes in these gaps, and so it's all very well to say, yes, we need, and we understand we need to do it. There's also that point as well, we are a tiny, tiny island.
Yes.
Who are very good anyway at probably already having quite clean, whether you like it or not, diesel, because of EU regulations, at having those cars, having very kind of clean cars. when you talk about of cars, of the nations of Russia, China,
South America,
South America.
South America, dude, is just has absolutely no. It's not even on their radar.
No.
To gear up for the infrastructure which is being so heavily pressed on us in Europe. So it's an interesting time, man. It's an interesting time. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see what our kids will be driving.
Or not. We just don't know. Or not. I mean, that's slightly depressing to me.
So Aston Martin are genuinely working on a flying car, like actually working on it. And it looks like, imagine a life-size drones, because drones are so easy to fly. They've got the 4 propellers horizontally mounted. You can control it like you drive a PlayStation, right? And they've teamed up with this startup, and they are creating this Aston Martin flying car. And I was down there at their factory, and I was like, and they've got up a big picture, and they've got this 3D model, and it's not like a joke. And I was like, how serious is that? They're like, yeah, it's coming. I was like, what? What do you mean it's coming? It's like, yeah, we're gonna be having flying cars. And I'm like, I can't even keep up, man. I
mean, that worries me too.
Concerns me, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen some people trying to reverse into a parking space and they can't do it. Give them a car that flies.
I know. Maybe it's an autonomous thing. Maybe you just get in this pod, in this flying pod.
But if you think of, we don't have road space at the moment.
No, particularly on our little island,
on our little island. So what do? You can't keep digging tunnels and building roads. There is something, and there is this sky that I suppose is empty, virtually empty at the moment. So maybe that is.
Lots of space up there, dude.
Yeah. Did you just drive a new Vantage manual?
No, they just gave me the press pack and said, put that out at 12:01. Okay. So I did.
Oh, okay.
We're recording on the day that Aston Martin have launched a manual Vantage AMR, which I'm excited about. But
I was very surprised about.
On the one hand, we're talking about all of this renewable energy stuff and autonomous driving, and then Aston, who, on the one hand are working on these flying drone things, have just come out with this wonderful V8 manual purist driver's car, and I love
what Aston are doing.
Yeah,
and some mad things.
They're an exciting brand right now.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, to have the balls to do Valkyrie. This V12
Still
crazy
not quite
car.
sure about the Vantage lights. I have to say,
That's
I keep looking at them.
Application, but yeah,
but it's a good looking car.
It's a good looking car.
It's a great
looking car, man.
But no, I do like what Aston are doing at the moment. It's no, it's great. But looking at that sort of, but it's the same as vinyl sales of music.
Yes,
people are now are putting their records on vinyl because the prices are going up.
Last year. I'm not fabricating this. Last year, vinyl sales outsold digital purchased downloads. Not streams.
Yeah.
People paying for downloaded music. Vinyl's outsold it. Yeah, I had the same reaction. I had to research it. It was real. It was real. Vinyl set, actual transaction taking place versus a digital download. Vinyl's outsold.
See, and that's where we've got to come back to is thinking that people don't want to own something. People don't want something tangible.
They want
people
an experience.
But they do.
They do.
And you might like it for a while, and actually think, I haven't got anything here. I'm not touching anything. Which we're going on about.
That's it, man.
Maybe there is that point to cars where people go, I don't want a car. Actually, maybe I do. Maybe you will go back to.
And that's what I meant by for every yin, there's a yang. I was like, I'm hoping there's going to be this equestrian, scene pushback where someone wants to just go back to pure organic experience. The vinyls. What the iPad was to the book, supposedly. And if you look at the stuff that people are doing with coffee table books now, they're so beautiful. And there was no demand for that before. They were just like, well, of course it's on paper, But now some of the stuff they're doing is incredible. And I think it's just this resurgence and pushback off the back of this other new mainstream movement. And hopefully we'll see these two things running in, parallel that can complement each other. So, So David Gandy, before you go.
Yes, sir.
What is next for you? What are you working on? What are you excited about? Whatever you're excited about. What are you? Cars.
I'm going to finish off the 356 and the Jag, and I will have a rest. I say that every time.
You won't. It's in your blood, mate.
I will be on the classifieds by the time I get back from Monaco.
You will.
So I don't know what I'm. But I would quite like to work on. I know it sounds really mad, but something for the city, something like an original Mini.
Yeah. Cool.
a bit of a cute car.
You know what I would love
I quite like that.
to do, and this is weird to come out of my mouth despite the fact that the conversation we've just had.
Yeah.
You know Singer, that do reimagine Porsches. I would love to reimagine an original Fiat 500 electric. So an electric Fiat 500 reimagined to the quality of a Singer. So the interior is just beautiful, leathers that tell stories, a bit like your D-Type, and just rebirth that car. Now I say it's interesting because I wasn't particularly in favor of Jaguar making an electric E-Type. Okay. The reason being is that I felt that it was the equivalent of putting a quartz movement into a Patek Philippe.
Yeah.
But with a Fiat 500, let's face it, the engine was never a celebrated element of that car. It was more about the character of it and how cute it was and how practical it was around town. If anything, an electric motor would probably improve that car.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was thinking, that would work.
Yeah,
that would
I know. I do know what you mean about the. But yeah, I think there had to be a demonstration of what you
can do.
What you can do
For
with.
Sure. Yeah.
With reimagining classics on if there is that point that they can't be driven, what can we do?
Oh, dude, if it comes to a point where it's like you can no longer drive an internal combustion engine, put a battery in an E-Type all day long, and I fully agree with that. Yeah. Absolutely. If it comes to a point where it's law, but right now, man, it came with a V12 and it was celebrated, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's like the heart of that car.
Absolutely. But then there was the point of Harry and Meghan driving off.
You're right. Yeah.
As an example.
He went down in my books after that, mate. Harry, if you're watching, mate, jump back on your Ducati, bro.
Well, if he had fished out a V12 out of the on the gravel,
opposite lock.
Yeah.
Past the guards.
They were in one side that tutted, the other side gone.
That would have been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been very, very cool. And we all know, it's that twattish behaviour that we all know. Fair enough. Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still boys at heart at the end of the day.
Cool.
And,
well, mate, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come and see us here.
Thank you.
It's been very cool, and hopefully we'll arrange. We've been chatting, obviously, off camera about trying to do something with a Project 8.
I'm working on it.
So let's try and do that.
Working on it, absolutely, sir.
And if Jag aren't up for it, let's pester Harry.
Yeah.
Cool.
Harry will do it.
Thanks very much, mate.
Boss.
It's been cool.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.